U.S. Coast Guard aircraft operations save numerous lives every year. But helicopter operations can be dangerous for the crew of your vessel and the rescuers. This video provides an overview of how to prepare for the arrival of a helicopter, what to expect with medevacs and basket retrievals, and the steps to successfully assemble and operate a dewatering pump. Aircraft are restricted in the time they can fly due to fuel limitations. Crew preparation is essential to permit the helicopter to stay on the scene long enough to deliver equipment or make an evacuation.
There was 3.5 feet of water in the engine room. The gearbox, starter, alternator were all underwater. It was horrific. Water flying everywhere. Had to suppress a bit of fear and anxiety to just go jump in and do what had to be done.
Crew members need an emergency plan or station bill of specific duties to prepare for helicopter arrival. Proper preparation and practice can mean the difference between the success or failure of an operation.
And Cooper Alpha from Coast Guard 6007, how do you read?
Duties of the crew include communicating with the Coast Guard. While on deck, crew members need to wear personal flotation devices. Preparing the deck by lowering antenna, booms, rigging, flagstaffs, and securing any loose gear. Positioning vessel into seas. Maintaining watertight integrity. Acting as a messenger between deck and wheelhouse.
Hey, Skipper! Gear's on deck! Helicopter's leaving! Thank you.
Using hand signals to communicate with the helicopter. Operating Coast Guard delivered equipment.
For a smooth operation is just listen carefully to the helicopter before they get on scene and when they're on scene. If you can, even write down what they're saying so you can review it with the entire crew. What's important is that what the captain is hearing or what the person at the radio is hearing gets communicated to the deck of the vessel for the people that are going to be retrieving the rescue equipment and the trail line, so they know how to handle that equipment when we get on scene.
I'm calling the U.S. Coast Guard. U.S. Coast Guard, vessel Kupernoff, WSCX 2762, with a medical emergency. We've got a medical
Contact the Coast Guard early with name, description, position, on-scene weather, number of people, and nature of problem.
Affirmative, it's the vessel Kupernoff. It's a 80-foot steel tender. We have 7 people on board.
They will set up a communication schedule. It is important rescuers be notified of any changes in weather, patient, or vessel conditions.
Updates with how the patient is doing before we arrive on scene, while we arrive on scene is very important. The communication that we have en route and talking to us about what's going on with their vessel, what's going on with the weather is very important. The weather can be considerably different on scene than it is while we're in transit, especially if it's a couple hundred miles offshore or between base and where we're arriving with the vessel.
It is extremely important to give the Coast Guard an early call for possible help. It is much better to give an early call for help and then cancel it if not needed than delay your call until it is too late to respond. Be sure to give an accurate location. Also be sure to give the nature of the problem.
Yeah, the last meal was about 2 hours ago. It was at lunch. We had a bunch of steamers that we dug on the beach there, okay?
If it is a vessel problem, state the type of assistance you need so the Coast Guard knows what specialized equipment or people to bring.
Roger, Captain, do you want to give me a description of the patient again, age?
If a medical problem, give patient's name, age, gender, nature of illness or injury, vital signs if possible, history of illness, assistance given, and level of medical care available on board. Let the Coast Guard know if the patient can walk, so they know if a litter or basket is needed.
I don't have any vital signs on her. I think she's 39 years old.
If there will be some time before the helicopter arrives, change course and steam in the direction of the helicopter to reduce the distance. In general, if the stern is clear enough to work from, the helicopter will ask you to prepare for its arrival by turning the vessel so the wind is 35 to 45 degrees off the port bow. Keep speed on. This will make it easier for the helicopter to maneuver when delivering equipment. If the stern doesn't provide an adequate hoisting area, the Coast Guard will give you other directions.
It's just important for them to stow all the loose gear on the deck, because this helicopter is going to put out hurricane-force winds, which 75 plus miles per hour, and that anything that's not stowed on that deck is going to become a potential hazard and can get airborne, blow around, or certainly they're going to lose it if it's floating around.
In preparation for the helicopter, lower poles, rigging when possible, but not radio antenna. Cut fishing gear loose or bring on board. Illuminate the deck with all lights pointing at the deck and not the helicopter. When on scene, the Coast Guard will give a briefing to the vessel. This will include instructions for an aircraft emergency. You will want to know how many people are on board the aircraft in case the aircrew gets into trouble and needs to be rescued. Tell the helicopter crew about onboard obstructions they may not see, such as guy lines and wires. When preparing for the arrival of the equipment, the crew should coordinate for hand signals. If the orange trail line with weight bag is wet, let it hit the deck or water before touching to avoid static charge. Never tie off the trail line to the vessel. Pull trail line slightly taut to help guide equipment from the helicopter to the deck. Coil the trail line and place it at the side of the deck.
Before we arrive on scene, we're giving what we call a hoist brief or a vessel brief. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is the static electricity that's coming off of this helicopter.
Be sure the delivered equipment touches the deck first to avoid possible shock from static charge. Keep rescue equipment and cables in front of you at all times to avoid entanglement.